Okay, evening all. What did I promise you last week?
About that, about
Yeah, no, I didn't. I promised you right at the end of the Shiur last week. Yeah, which particular bit?
The extra bits. Why we put the talus over our head?
You promised me about to explain why we bow.
Yeah, I did, but that was earlier on. But
why,
the end.
Why we've got in the article all the stuff we're not supposed to say.
Yeah, okay, all of that stuff. And specifically, I said we were only going to spend 10 or 15 minutes on why you don't look at the Kohanim.
Yeah.
Okay, no peeping. Okay, so we'll start with why you don't look at the Kohanim whilst they are giving their bracha.
Because the Shemonah is on their fingertips.
Okay, very good. How do you know that?
I imagined it.
Philip said because the Shemonah is on their fingertips.
That's why they cover their fingertips with a talit.
That's not why they cover their fingers with the talit, but there is an opinion that says that we don't look because the Shemonah rests on the fingertips of the Kohanim. But I want to know where you know that from.
I know that from old Hasidic law. I mean,
in other words, you don't know.
Yes, I do. I learned this.
So where's the source?
The source. I don't know the source.
Oh, okay, so you don't know the source. That was the question.
My father is the source.
Your father's the source. Okay, well, there is an earlier source than your father for this idea that the Kohanim's fingers have the Shemonah resting upon them. But before we talk about that, we have to talk about the Kohanim's fingers. Okay, so what do the Kohanim do with their fingers? How do they spread their fingers?
Like this.
Okay.
Like the Shaddai.
One second, Johnny, show me how they.
It's like I can't do it, but it's like a shin for the Shaddai.
We can't hear you, Johnny. Why can't we hear you?
Turn it up.
Where's the thing?
You're
Right, Johnny. Now you're muted. Unmute. Right.
Isn't it to do with a shin and a dalad or?
Okay, show us how they do it, Johnny.
I can't do it.
Show me your best effort. Okay, hold your hands up like that and show us.
I can't remember. I don't know.
Okay, so Johnny can't do it.
No.
And neither can I.
Well, at this age, you all have coordination.
No, I can't do it. Philip, come in front of the camera, Philip.
You can do it.
Philip actually can do. Hand them up like that, Philip.
I don't even know.
Philip actually can do it. Okay. Can you do it, Leslie? No, Leslie can't do it. Hannah can do it. Can you do it?
My name is
Goldie?
Goldie.
I wish Hannah
Goldie?
could be a Cohen, but she can't.
No. Goldie can't do it.
No.
Jeff can do it. What about you, Frank?
Never done that.
You can do it, yeah. Warren, can you do it?
I'm trying it, probably not.
Right, okay. So I can't do it.
You're not getting it right.
So what the Kohanim have to do is I have to get Philip here. Come here, Philip. Okay, that is what the Kohanim have to do. So there needs to be a gap. There needs to be a gap between the thumb and the index finger. And there needs to be a gap between the middle and the ring finger. Now, what does that shape look like?
Shin.
A shin. It looks like a shin.
W?
Yes, like that. It doesn't look like a W. We're in Lush and Kodesh, Goldie. Right? Goldie says it looks like a W. It's a shin.
Oh, shit.
It does look like a W, but a W looks like a shin. Okay, it's a shin.
You still need me?
No, you can sit down now. Thank you very much. So I can't do it because my ring and little finger will not stay together, and that is
practice.
No, it's not. You can't practice. No, you could not be a Kohen. Well, yes, you can be a Kohen, but you're not doing it properly. But the reason that half of us can and half of us can't is that there is a genetic reason for that.
Does that mean I'm descended from a Cohen?
Not necessarily, no. But there is a genetic reason, and that is if you look at the tendons of the hand, you will see that there is a common origin for these two in some people, and in some other people there is there are these two have a are split.
That's an excuse. I think it's got a lot to do with moronitude.
And I remember my father telling me that when he was a kid, he always wanted to be a Kohen, but he couldn't do it. So what he used to do is he used to get an elastic band, and he used to band these two things together. And you know what? Eventually, he could do it. But I've never tried it. But there is an anatomical reason why some of us can't. And it's actually quite interesting because it's about 50-50. So in this room, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 that can, 3 that can't, and 1 that hasn't tried.
Can all Kohanim do it, Johnny?
I don't know. It'd be an interesting piece of research, wouldn't it, to look at whether there is a higher degree of people of Kohanim able to do that than the general population. There you go. There's a PhD for someone. Okay, what's the source of that? The source of that is the source is Shiur HaShirim. Okay, Shiur HaShirim says in chapter 2, verses 8 and 9 that Hashem peeks through the lattice work of the cracks in the wall, and so this is a lattice work of, and that's the source for having the Shekhinah on the end of the hands. Of course, we have a big difference. This is only what we do here is only a zeicher to what they did in the Mikdash, and it's very interesting. If you look. Okay, let me ask you a question. If you wanted to find the halachot of Birchat Kohanim in the Gemara, where would you look? You would think in Brachot.
Yeah.
Correct answer, Leslie. You would think in Brachot, but it is not in Brachot. It's not in Yoma, but it's in Sota. Now, Sota is Yoma deals only with Yom Kippur. Yeah, you're right. And it was a good guess. But Sota deals with a lot of the stuff that went on in the Beit HaMikdash. And Birchat Kohanim is discussed in 38a and b of Sota. Okay? Now, 1 second. When it comes to the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, he places it in the Brachot section, in Tefilah. Now, there's a reason for that, because particularly the Rishonim talk about the difference between Birchat Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash and Birchat Kohanim after the Beit HaMikdash. There is, and one is clearly not the same as the other. Birchat Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash, there it was as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shekhinah rested on the fingers of the Kohanim. And as it were, Hashem was peeping through the lattice work, as is suggested in Shiur HaShirim. So here, so you would say that one of the reasons we don't look at the Kohanim is because we can't look at the Shekhinah. Okay, and if we're looking at the Kohanim and the Shekhinah is resting on the fingers, we can't do that. So
was it not part of the Beit HaMikdash that the ordinary people weren't allowed in?
No, the Kohanim was stood on a duchan,
yes,
on a platform, which is why it's called Duchening.
Yeah,
because the word duchan means a platform. So they were. There's no such verb as to duchen, by the way. Duchan is a noun. Yeah, so we call it duchening, don't we? Because are you going to duchen? Well, it's not a verb. There isn't a verb. Are you going to platform? No, you can't. There's no such verb. It's a noun, but we've made it into a verb, haven't we? So they stood on a duchan. They stood on a platform, and they did this Birchat Kohanim in front of the people, or more correctly, the people were in front of them, and that's important. Now. So all of these questions about where you stand for the Kohanim, for the Birchat Kohanim, how you face them or you don't face them, whether you look at them, you don't look at them. This is all based on the Birchat Kohanim that went on in the Beit HaMikdash. And what we do today is only a zecher. It's only a remembrance of that. It's not, by the way, just for everyone's sake here, Goldie has now managed to do it with one hand only. She can't do it with the other hand. So she's only half a coin. All right. Goldie's a coin. Very good.
The best coming.
You're a bas coin.
I
There you
really
go.
am.
There you are. There you are.
Oh,
Right. So this Birchat Kohanim that went on in the Beit HaMikdash is, as we said last week, a mitzvah deoraita. It's one of the 613 mitzvot. How do we know that? Because the pasuk says, "Ko tevarachu et bnei Yisrael." So you shall bless.
Where's the Tariag mitzvahs written?
Where are the
they
Tariag
written?
mitzvahs? I mean, where are they listed?
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different versions of them. The Chinuch writes them, Rambam writes them. But this is one of the, and of course, there are certain ones that are in and certain ones that are out. But Birchat Kohanim is definitely in every list, is one of the 613 mitzvahs. Now, somebody asked me last week, I think it might have been you, Frank, if a Kohen has to duchen. Now I looked that up, and actually I said to you, I wasn't far off. I said to you that it was like not wearing tzitzit. They have missed an avera. They've missed an opportunity to do a mitzvah. Actually, that isn't quite correct. They actually missed an opportunity to do 3 mitzvot. And I looked it up. The Kohen doing duchening or Birchat Kohanim or Nasiat Kapayim. By the way, that's another expression that we use to describe Birchat Kohanim is Nasiat Kapayim. What does that mean? Not you.
Certainly your hands.
Nasiat Kapot Kapayim.
Kapayim is hand palms.
Kapayim is hands, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's Nasiat?
Lifting.
I don't mean with a samach.
Lifting.
With a samach, it's travel.
Lifting.
With a sin, it's lifting.
Yeah.
To lift up.
Yeah.
And Esa Einai.
I shall lift my
El
eyes to
Harim.
the mountain.
So Nasiat Kapayim, lifting up of the hands. Okay, so if you hear that expression Nasiat Kapayim, that means duchening. Okay, so how many different names have we got for this thing we do? Duchening, which is not a proper word at all. Nasiat Kapayim, Birchat Kohanim. Okay, that's at least 3. Okay, so
different.
go on.
I was taught. It says Va'ani Avalchem, and when the Kohanim duchen, there's actually the light, the God's light, Hashem Hu V'Tavikim light, Tiglavor, is actually transferred through the Kohanim onto the population, and you don't look because
We haven't got to not looking yet.
because you can't, because it will damage.
Because it'll blind you. All right. Okay.
Well,
Okay. We'll come to that.
Blind you, but it'll do damage the same way as eating shave does damage.
Okay, we'll come to it. We're just entering this. We've not got into actually looking at the Kohanim yet.
A little bit because we kind of almost missed a bit beforehand when you washed our hands.
All right.
So, are you washing your hands because Hashem is going to be on your hands, or is it? I also heard because you have to take your shoes off.
Okay. Right. There's all sorts of stuff here.
Well, that's good.
Also, okay. There's all sorts of stuff. Let's take
We've got one teacher.
Let's take it one step at a time. Okay, let's go back. Let's do what Jeff suggests and go back. First thing that the Kohanim do is take their shoes off. All right.
Some of them wash their hands.
And they wash their hands first.
Okay, so what's going to happen? You're going to wash your hands and then touch your shoes? Can't do that.
Well,
So somebody, wait. Somebody said, pour me a drink, please. Somebody said over here, they loosen their laces. Okay, that's all right. You don't have to take your shoes off before you wash your hands. But if you've washed your hands, you can't take your shoes off with your hands. Okay, so you either take your shoes off first, which you can if you want, and then wash your hands, or you wash your hands and then take your shoes off without touching them.
How can you do that?
If they're slip-ons, you You could, if they're slip-ons, you could slip them on.
Slip-ons.
They didn't wear shoes.
They come up-
Ah, okay. Wait. Jeff says in the Beit HaMikdash they didn't wear shoes. Why not?
Good question. They didn't.
Why not?
Because they're
Because they're-
Because of leather. Leather was.
Because the ground's salty.
Chance of picking up any dirt like there is here.
It wasn't a very clean place. It was full of shrunken animals being shafted.
Blood was okay.
Blood all over the place.
We didn't want to lose your shoes.
Don't want to ruin your shoes.
Why in the temple did they only wash once, whereas we wash for Shabbos and for Musaf, they only wash once in the first thing, and that was it. They didn't keep washing every time they did them.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll come to that in a minute. Let's just stick with what we've got. See how difficult this Birchat Kohanim is. You've all got hundreds of questions all over the place. We need to get some Seder here, else we'll never get through it. So let's go back to the first thing they do is loosen their shoes or take them off. And then they wash their hands. Okay, why are they washing their hands?
Well, because they touched their shoes.
Purity.
Or Hashem's going to be on their hands.
It's an issue of it's not because Hashem's going to be on their hands. If Hashem was going to be on their head, they wouldn't have to wash their head. Okay, washing their hands today is symbolic of getting rid of tuma, of getting rid of impurity.
Tuma is the skin of the shoes. No,
Anything that you
leather is
leather can be, yes. So we don't have shoes in the Beit HaMikdash, as you quite
I've
rightly
asked this
said.
question before, and how actually should the Kohen wash his hands? Because I've seen that just in front, I've seen that, I've seen that.
Okay, we need to tell everyone what that is. So Leslie says the Kohanim sometimes do that to be washed, they do that to be washed, they do that to be washed,
depends on the
And
size
they
of
do
the
that.
soap.
and they do that. Okay, so how should they be washed? Quite simply, they should be washed with their hands out, and each hand should be washed up until the wrist. Okay, once only. If you want to do it twice, 3 times, whatever you like, all sorts of things. But it should be one, and it's the same for Netilat Yadayim when you.
And should I?
It should be the whole hand should be wet.
And if they are doing it,
Leslie,
wrong,
of course, is a Levi, so he's got skin in the game.
yeah. Should I call you out and tell them that they aren't doing it right, or how should you do it, or really just forget it?
No, you should tell them. You should say, we learned this last week. You need to have your hands out like that. Okay.
In Hebrew as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, right hand first and then left hand.
What's the left hand?
It doesn't matter. Right hand first, then left hand. So again, it doesn't invalidate it if you do it the other way. But what's the whole point of this hand washing? It's symbolic of getting rid of the tuma. Okay, purity. Correct. So why do we do that? Because between waking up in the morning and washing your hands when you wake up in the morning and coming to shul and getting ready to do your duchening, inevitably you will have touched things that you're not meant to touch. You'll have scratched your head. You'll have, touched your shoes to put them on. And your hands, as it were, have symbolically become tamei again. So that's why they wash their hands. Now, who does the washing? The Levi, right? What if there is no Levi?
Yeah, but before, don't you?
Who does it?
Well, I should do it. First one, before.
Are you Israel?
The firstborns do it. Why the firstborns?
Because they are the.
Because they were the original Kohanim, weren't they? Now, it's very interesting because there is no Gemara source for the firstborns to do this. It's brought down in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, but it's not brought down in the Gemara. So it's not clear where that minhag arose, but it definitely is an Ashkenaz minhag. Having said that, Rav Yuval had never heard that minhag when I told him, which I found very strange because he's very, very knowledgeable. So I think there must be some kind of, there may be some kind of local minhag going on here that I'm not fully aware of. But if there are no, the minhag of Ashkenaz at least is if there are no Levim, the Bechar does it. What if there's no Levim or Bechar? The Kohen does it himself. That's right. Okay, and so then he's washed his hands.
Doesn't one Kohen do all of them and then do his own?
No, they each do their own.
Is
So-
it without the bracha, Johnny?
Okay, good question. That's the next question. Do they make a bracha? Why not? Make a bracha when you do it in the morning.
Because it's
Because
not
they
them who do
themselves are
the,
not
do it,
doing the washing.
because
are
it's
they?
the Levium.
What if
that
they
do it.
wash themselves?
Even so, because you don't make a bracha initially when, say, the lady washes your hands, by definition, if they do
But
it
they mix
themselves,
off
you
it.
wouldn't.
Are they what?
Do they have to wash their hands? Like, what's the source that they wash their hands?
The source is because we're copying what went on in the Beit HaMikdash.
You make a bracha in the morning because you're mitzvah, you're commanded to do it in the morning.
No, you're not. You're commanded to do it because you're washing your hands because you're getting rid of the tumah. You're making a bracha. Okay, so why aren't you making? You're doing the sit for the same reason. You're getting rid of the tumah. Why don't you make the bracha?
It's symbolic, it'd be a legato.
No, you've already made it.
You've already made the bracha. That bracha goes on for. Yeah,
but it's-
that's it. You've already made a bracha in the morning, and as it were, like that does for all the other hand washing things, except for when you have bread. Okay, so they don't make a bracha. Right now, the next thing they do, yes, Frank.
I just want to go back to the shoes.
Right.
When you're talking about shoes, you're speaking specifically about leather shoes.
Yes, but I don't think that means that if you haven't got leather shoes on, you keep them on.
My recollection as a kid, and certainly back in England, was that the Kohanim would take off their shoes and put on slippers or even put on plimsolls.
Okay. I don't remember that, but shoes means leather, that's for sure, because with Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, right, we wear non-leather shoes. So leather is definitely the issue. Now, there was one sec, Johnny, just before don't want to lose this thought.
Okay.
Somebody here, not here in this room, but somebody here in this shul complained to me that one of our Kohanim
That's what I'm telling you.
Huh? Is this
That's what we're going to tell you about.
Right. So it wasn't Johnny, but somebody else complained to me about one of our Kohanim who came with sandals
Oh, no.
and took his sandals off and didn't have socks. So he was then barefoot. And he went up to the Duchening barefoot. And this particular person said that wasn't right and shouldn't do that. And instinctively, I said, "No, I think you're probably right." And then I looked it up. Was she right?
I have the woman, we've got that bit.
I'm not going to ask you to guess who it was.
Okay.
Okay, was she right? Oh,
I don't think so.
you don't think so. Why do you think she wasn't right? And it's so what you're saying, Hannah, is it's allowed for the Kohen to be barefoot.
Yes, I would imagine that the Beit HaMikdash they go barefoot.
Okay, all right.
Also, I've tried to say before, we can, when Moses was standing in front of the burning bush, God said to him, take off your shalet et na'alecha, because where you're standing is holy.
That's right. So holy places you don't
What's the
have,
person-
correct. We didn't say take your socks off, did he?
No,
He wasn't wearing socks. They
How
didn't
do you
wear
think
socks
what he
in
was
those
wearing?
days.
How could she see? How could she see from the ladies
Just
section?
wait a minute. Hang on a minute.
standing there barefoot.
Hang on a minute. You may well be right, Philip, but the only reason you know that they didn't wear socks is because you've seen the 10 Commandments, right? Cecil B. DeMille, right? But for all you know, Moshe Rabbeinu might have worn socks. He might have worn Vasasachen, no? He might have worn white socks like a chassid. You have no idea about that. Anyway, the answer to the question is, actually, she was right and she was wrong. Because it is not forbidden to go barefoot for the reasons that you've said, which is that they probably did go barefoot in the Beit HaMikdash. However, today it would not be considered correct to do so. And the reason given in the Achronim, that means the later commentators, like the Mishnah Brura, for example, says you should not go barefoot. The reason being is that you would not go barefoot to go and visit an important person like the king, right? And therefore, it's not kavod for us because we wouldn't, today, that's not considered. Whereas back in the day, if Cecil B. DeMille is to be believed, they didn't wear socks and therefore going barefoot was okay. Now, I've got a bit of a difficulty with that because we wouldn't go and see the king without shoes and just in socks, would we? We'd have our shoes and we'd have spit and polish and we'd, and it'd all be shiny and all that stuff. So I'm not quite sure of the reasoning there, except that we wouldn't wear leather shoes because we're not meant to wear leather shoes. So anyway, the bottom line is this person who was complaining about that said it was asur, and it isn't asur for him to go barefoot, but it's just recommended that he doesn't.
How
Yes.
can she see from the ladies' gallery?
One sec, Johnny. One sec. Just got Hannah first.
In Saudi Arabia, would we go barefoot?
Probably. I don't know. Does he wear socks?
I don't know if he wears socks, but yeah,
You take your shoes off. You would take your shoes off. Yeah, it's definitely you take your shoes off. I once went to, I got invited, probably shouldn't have gone really, halachically, but I once got invited to a Sikh temple, right? My computer engineer, whose name is Bobby Singh, it's not his real name, but he's known as Bobby Singh, right? He is
From Cheetamil.
he is the gabbai. No, he lives in Chorlton. He is the gabbai. He's the gabbai of the local temple, right? He's a big knacker. Anyway, they opened this. You have never seen anything like it. This beautiful, beautiful thing. And he invited me to go, and I was embarrassed not to go. Anyway, I went. And once I'd got in, I realized probably shouldn't be in this place because it was probably a bit of Avodah Zorah going on in there, and you're not really meant to go into a house of Avodah Zorah. Anyway, I went into this thing. I had to take my shoes off. And they gave me this orange hat to put on as well. Have you been, Leslie?
I've been to the real one in India.
Right. Well, this one, they give you this orange hat. And you know what's really interesting? What's really interesting is they have this huge bed.
Yeah.
They have a huge bed. And who's in the bed?
That girl.
No, not a girl.
I'm reading
A book. They have a book in the bed, right? A book. They have this book, this holy book. And what they do is they have a whole ceremony in the morning where they take the book out and everyone comes and kisses the book. And then they do a reading out of the book. And then they take the book back and they kiss it on the way back and they put it back in the bed. Very familiar, isn't it? Correct. I don't know whether they do it every day. And the other thing that was really interesting is that in the basement of this place was the most phenomenal chesed organization going on there. Now, this is a Sikh community in Manchester. I don't know what the Sikh community in Manchester numbers, but there he showed me. There were storehouses of sacks of rice and vegetables, and there's like a soup kitchen going on there, and people come in all day long and they're given food, and it really quite an eye-opener. It was a very impressive. Why am I telling you all this? Oh yeah, taking the shoes off, that's right.
To finish off, sorry, on the thing about the shoes and putting on trainers or plimsolls or slippers. It used to be the custom in England, certainly. I'm going back when I was a kid, but we never used to duchen on a Shabbat.
Correct, I agree.
And the reason for the not duchening on the Shabbat was that people were encouraged to carry their slippers and bring their...
Is that right? I never knew that.
And that's why.
I never knew that. I never knew that because it's very interesting you should say that. Let me just repeat that. Frank said that he remembers as a kid that in Chutz La'aretz, where he was in London, if Yom Tov was a Shabbat, they didn't duchen. And I also remember that. And I was racking my brains the other day when we were thinking about this as to when that changed. Because, of course, today, I don't know about what they do in Kenton today, if you've even got any Kohanim in Kenton left. But I don't know when it changed, but certainly in Shrubs, when I was a kid, we never duchened on a Shabbos, and I never knew why. And Frank has just said that that he was told that the reason why we didn't, duchen on a Shabbos was because they were worried that the Kohanim would carry their slippers to shul because they took their shoes off and put slippers on. And that's a very interesting. No Eruv in those days. That's really interesting. Just that, let me ask Johnny Halpin this. because he didn't daven in a United Synagogue type of shul. Johnny, do you remember as a kid, did they duchen on a Shabbos Yom Tov?
We did Duchening on Shabbos. I showed you the papers, but we didn't say the Ribbon Shalom and the other prayer.
But you did duchen on a Shabbos
As far as I know, yes.
when you were a kid?
That was a quick Duchening, yeah. But it was an adult as well.
Possibly, Frank, because they, as it were, would know better not to. They wouldn't be worried about them. They know the halachas of carrying. Could well be. Very interesting, that. Yes, Warren.
I was going to say that,
Go on, Johnny.
I was going to say a couple of things. Number one, how did that woman see from the ladies' gallery what the Duchening were wearing on their feet or not wearing on their feet?
Good question. Don't
Number
know.
one. Number two, I was going to say Linda's grandpa was in the shoe business in Sunderland, and he gave all the Kohanim a pair of slippers, which they wore every Duchening.
There you go. That's really interesting.
And
Okay.
the third thing I was going to say was a Kohen in our shul, it might be before your time, Johnny, didn't duchen.
Yes.
And when Ravido came, he asked him the question, well, you can finish the story then.
I will come to that. He does duchen now.
He does duchen now.
I'll come to that in a minute when we talk about something
It's a
else.
very nice story.
Yeah, hold it, and we'll come to that in a minute.
Okay.
Warren.
We didn't Duchening in our shul until the Daven arrived in the 70s, and he changed it to Duchening on Shabbos.
He changed it to Duchening on Shabbos. Did he explain why they hadn't and why he changed it? Do you remember?
No, to be honest.
No. Okay. Yes, Hannah.
Sikhs are sort of Muslim.
No, Sikhs are not Muslim. Sikhs hate Muslims. Yeah.
Indians.
Yeah, no, Sikhs are not Muslims. Okay.
They're Indians.
Islam, by the way, is not Avodah Zarah. I think.
No, Islam's not, because you're allowed in a mosque.
Yeah, Sikhs. I don't think I should have been there, but anyway. Right, let's go on. So with the Kohanim have washed their hands. They've taken off their shoes. They can, if they want, go barefoot, but it's advised by the Mishnah Brura that they shouldn't because of kavod. They can put their slippers on, obviously, because they did. And it's really only leather. Shoes are only really leather. We know that from Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av. But they can't touch their shoes, which is why, by the way, we have a long shoe horn over there.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a shoe horn over there ready for them. We also have a little bench there, which was actually put there. It was donated by Alex Awat, specifically for the Kohanim to put their shoes on, because the Shulchan Aruch says very clearly the Kohanim should take their shoes off, but they should not leave them in front of the Duchan. They should put them away, aside, because it's not kavod to leave your shoes knocking around. So Alex Awat, who is a Sephardi and would have had this very strong minhag, he bought that bench there that people sit on, and it's got a rack at the bottom. The idea was for them to put their shoes on. Nobody does, but that was the idea of why we had that. Right, so where have we got up to? We've washed our hands, we've got our shoes off, and we are up there, and we've all done. We've said about Nasiat Kapayim, we've said about the lattice work. We've also mentioned that in the Bet HaMikdash, it was as if the Shekhinah was on the fingertips. We now have to talk about the choreography of the Kohanim. Okay.
Before we do that, forgive me if you did mention it last week, I can't remember. I know you mentioned the fact of why you talk about whether the person says Kohanim or not. Because of the plural.
I'm still looking for the answer.
No, it's plural, so it's obvious.
What? Yeah, I'm looking for the answer.
That.
I
Forgive
couldn't
me.
find the guy.
In England, I'm sure, I was just looking at here and I'm
Yeah.
right. Used to, after the Kohanim, whoever said Kohanim.
We would say Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor. Right.
Did you mention it last
I
week?
did
I'll
mention it.
get it
We
soon.
did mention it,
I'm
but
sorry. And why do we not do it here?
okay. We don't do it here. Well, actually, that isn't a problem. Saying Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor is not really a problem. We don't do it here, but there's a potential problem, and that's why I think there are minhag not to do it. Kohanim. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back a step.
I haven't located him yet because
We're not interested in your Gabbai of the world. I'm telling you that your Gabbai or somebody called out
He
Kohanim.
put you in his pocket.
He called out Kohanim, or somebody in your shul called out Kohanim, because that is the halacha. That's
We'll
what you
find
do,
out. I'm
right?
waiting
You were not paying attention. That's why you didn't
for
hear it.
78 years.
Yes, for 78 years you never paid attention. Why should you change the habit of a lifetime? Right. So let's go back to this Kohanim business. I don't think we fully discussed the idea of who says Kohanim. Okay. Here, Eli Feierberg says it, right? There is a different minhag that the Chazan himself says it. Now, one of you mentioned, I think it was Frank, asked why he doesn't say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu, the Chazan, before he gets to Kohanim. Now, there is a minhag, a strong minhag in many places, that the Chazan does say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu quietly, and then when he gets to the word Kohanim, he raises his voice. So he will say, Atov Shimcha Lachanu Elehodot. The congregation would say Amen, and while they're saying Amen, he will say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu to himself quietly, and then he gets to the word Kohanim, and he says Kohanim. So there's an objection to that, okay? And the reason that there are two minhagim, one to do it and one not to do it, okay? Why would you think that it would possibly be not done? Frank, why wouldn't we do it? Since you asked the question.
Because it was causing a break.
Yes. What's the Hebrew word for that? Hefsek. Yes, very good. It would be a hefsek. It would be a hefsek in the repetition of the Amida, a pause, an interruption.
Yeah.
Okay. The people that say you are allowed, or not that you're allowed, that you should say it, clearly don't think that it's a hefsek. And they say it's not a hefsek, it's not an interruption, because it's all part of the inyan. Let me explain what I mean. When you've washed your hands for bread and you sit down to your meal, and you find that on the table, you can't find the knife or the salt. What do you do?
Get up and look for it.
All right, if you can't get up and look for it.
Where's the salt?
Okay, right. But a lot of people wouldn't do that, even if their wife was called Viv. What would they do? They'd go, right? And yeah, so that, you must have all seen that, yeah? Or if not done it, you've seen it, right?
Yeah. Mavsi.
And you say, no, you can't speak after you, well, you can't speak after you've washed your hands until you've eaten the bread, except for something to do with what you're doing. Now, you need the knife to cut the bread. You need the salt to dip the bread in. You can say, where's the salt? Or could you pass the salt? Or I couldn't find the knife. Could you get it for me? Or, and then she's allowed to say, get it yourself, right? Whatever it is. So that's not a hefsek, okay? And for the same reason, Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu is not a hefsek, because it's part of the whole thing. It's part, according to those that say you say it, it's not a hefsek because it's part of Birchat Kohanim. Unless you're going to tell me that Birchat Kohanim itself is a hefsek, which clearly isn't, or else it won't be in the middle of it saying.
It's not in my siddur to say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu for a Kohen in the Daven.
No, not everybody does. Nusach Ashkenaz generally does not. Did they do it in
the Sephardi siddur? I mean, I can't see it in my Sephardi siddur.
What does it say in the Sack Siddur that you say it quietly?
Yeah, quietly.
Okay, so it would appear that Nusach Anglia, at least, is to say it quietly.
They only seem to say it in Muslim.
Okay, that's another question. Why don't we duchen at Shacharis and Musa? We touched on that last week. We'll say it again later on.
You say if there's no Kohanim, that's...
No, if there's no Kohanim, then the Chazan says it out loud, the whole thing.
Yeah, but I can't see it in the siddur, my siddur, anyhow, where they do say it.
You can't say what? You can't see that they say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu if there's no Kohanim?
Yeah, if there are Kohanim.
So if there are, there are two minhagim, okay? But even those who don't say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu still say Kohanim, right? Those people who don't say Elokeinu v'Elokei Avotenu, because it's a hefsek, according to them, the Chazan would not say Kohanim. It would be the Gabbai or somebody else. right? Because it doesn't matter if he makes a hefsek, right? He's not the one saying the chazarat hashatz, right? So it seems to me that if you're going to say Elokeinu Elokeinu quietly to yourself, it should be the chazan that says Kohanim and not. Now, I remember as a kid, I never remember the chazarat hashatz with Elokeinu Elokeinu, but of course he said it quietly to himself. But I do remember that it was not the chazan that said Kohanim, it was somebody else, right? Like we do here. And so I'm not sure that was consistent. Maybe we didn't do the same minhag. I don't know. I don't recall the chazan saying Elokeinu Elokeinu quietly. I wasn't aware that was minhag Anglia, but clearly if it's in the Sachs version, it was and is. So there's that two different minhagim. So we've got to Kohanim, calling out Kohanim, right? You wanted to go back to that, Jeff? Have we covered that now? Right. So now the Kohanim have washed their hands, taken their shoes off. They've gone on to the Duchening. When do they go on to the Duchening? Before Esrei. They should really go on before Esrei. Why? Because Birchat Kohanim is part of Esrei. Esrei is the beginning of the bracha. Huh?
Not minhag Anglia.
Not minhag Anglia. Okay. Wait a minute. Hang on a minute.
Say, and then you.
No, I beg your pardon. Mistake. Go back. Before Modim, because it's not part of Esrei, is it? Modim is where it's part of Modim, right? Because the end of Esrei is Hamachzir Shechinato L'Tzion, no?
Yes, they were got before that.
Yes, what I'm saying is the Birchat Kohanim is not part of the Esrei bracha. It's part of the Modim bracha. I'm getting mixed up. So the Kohanim have to go up there before Modim.
Here, the minhag, I always Arik always turns around to see where they are before.
Yeah, because he's waiting. Arik knows the halacha, so he's waiting for them to go up before he says Modim, which is correct.
Yes.
They should be on the Duchening before Modim begins. Yeah. Right? So they go in, they actually go up during Esrei, don't they? That's why I was getting not before Esrei. They go up during Esrei so that they are there at the beginning of Modim, because that Kohanim comes immediately after Modim, doesn't it? It becomes immediately after Ulachana Elahodot, which is the end of Modim. So, and like we said before, it's after that. It's after that bracha, so they have to be ready for it. But you don't want to interrupt the bracha, so you should be there before Modim. So they're up there now. Now, we were talking about the choreography, weren't we? That's how I always remember the word choreography when I look at Frank, because he introduced that to this year. Right. So the choreography of the Kohanim, they're up there now, and where are they? How are they facing?
No, you missed out.
My
question was, why do we not say Am Kadoshech?
Oh, okay. Why do we not say Am Kadoshech? Okay. Yeah, I started to answer that, and I went off on a tangent. So the guy says Kohanim, whether it's the Chazan or the other folk. And then what happened? If you don't say Am Kadoshech Ka'amor, what happens? Okay, if you don't, what's the next thing after the word Kohanim? Baruch. The Kohanim start their bracha. Now, where there is a danger, is there not, that if you're saying Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor, and the Kohanim do not wait until you have said Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor, you're saying Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor, they've already started the bracha. What's going to happen? You're going to miss hearing the beginning of the bracha. Because while you're saying Am Kadoshech Ka'amor, they're saying Baruch Atah. Now, you're going to say to me, well, why don't they wait for you to say Am Kadoshech Ka'amor?
They're Israelis.
That's what they're doing.
Right. But, so you'll say to me, why would we not say Am Kadoshech Ka'amor? Because, I'll tell you why. What is the idea of the person saying Kohanim out loud? You call the Kohanim. The Kohanim are there ready. As soon as they're called, they're going to go into their bracha. So there is an opinion that says you don't say Am Kadoshech Ka'amor because there is a danger that you will miss part of the bracha, and then once you miss part of the bracha, you haven't got the full bracha. We all know that a bracha has to be complete, right? Which brings me to the next bit. Very, very important. for the Chazan to wait until the congregation has finished its Amen before starting the next bit. So, one sec, Frank, let me just finish this point. It's a very important point. So, Kohanim. Now, if you're going to say Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor, which you should not do here, because nobody does, and if you say it, you're going to miss the bracha, because again, as soon as I've said Kohanim or Eli said Kohanim, the Kohanim are right into their bracha Baruch Atah.
He doesn't
right?
say Kohanim. He warbles Kohanim.
So, and then, right, you're going to say Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor because you're used to doing it, and you've missed the beginning of the bracha. So here, in a place where they don't say Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor, you should not say it. In a place where they do, the Kohanim have to know that they should not start their bracha until everybody has finished saying Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor. Now, one sec, Frank. So, you say Kohanim, Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor, or you don't say Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor, and then you have the bracha, and then the Kehillah says Amen. Now, if you remember that Reb Yisrael, bless him, Zichrono Livracha, his Amen was something to behold.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were ever here, Leslie.
I had a bunch of-
Amen! It went on forever, right? And it's very important that the Chazan does not start the Yevarechecha before he's finished. And that goes for the Ya'er after the Amen to the Yishmerecha, etc. Because you have to hear it. Why do we have to hear it? It's part of the bracha, part of the halacha is to hear it, because what does it say in the Torah? Emor lahem. Say to them. So you have to hear it. It's got to be said, it's got to be heard. So the Amen is really important, and it's really important that we stop and wait. And that is why some places don't say the Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor. And just to go back before we asked Frank what he wanted to say, we also mentioned at the end of last week that there are bits that we used to say in Chutz La'aretz, in between each one, right? And you used to sing it, I imagine, because we used to sing it in shrubs. We had a choir, so more like a cat's choir than anything else, but it was a choir nevertheless. And they used to sing it, and I can hear. I'm not going to try and sing it because I've got such a rotten memory of tunes, even. But in my head, I can hear it. You know, I remember there was one particular one, Ki Chasiti Bach, which is part of it, and there was. If you look in some Sidurim, you will see there is a pasuk after each of the parts of Yevarecha Hashem B'Yishmerecha, and then it says congregation says. Have you got it there? Can I have a look, please?
This was Avram.
No, that's in the if you've not got Kohanim. In the art scroll, where is it? Here we go. There, yeah. Here we go. Thank you, Hannah. After Vayishmerecha, I said it was Ki Chasisi Bach, didn't I? Shomreini El Ki Chasisi Bach. I can hear the tune in my head. It's like, you know, that's one part of my childhood. That Shomreini El Ki Chasisi Bach. And after each of these things, and it says, see commentary regarding the related verses in small print that appears beside the words. Right, let's see the commentary. Related verses appear alongside the 15 words of Birchat Kohanim in most Sidurim. The function of these verses and the propriety, that means the properness for you, of reciting them presents a difficulty already dealt with in the Talmud. Where do you think it is in the Talmud? Sotah, 39b. Okay, the next page as to what I was talking about before. 39b says, most authorities agree that no verses should be recited at all. Some permit the verses to be read in an undertone while the Chazan calls out the words of the blessing. In any case, the practice of the masses who read these verses aloud, and especially of those who repeat the words of the Birchat Kohanim after the Chazan, is wrong and has no halachic basis. So what we used to do in shrubberies, where this choir warbled this stuff, was completely wrong. Because there is an opinion that says you should say it in an undertone. But thank you, Hannah. The most correct thing appears to be not to say it, or if you're going to scan it with your eyes. Okay? So, and the reason...
Baruch Hu Shemo, Johnny.
Okay, Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo is very simple. Ashkenazim shouldn't,
Yeah.
Sfardim do. Okay, Ashkenazim should not say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo because
Doesn't
we
matter.
consider it to be a hefsek. The Sfardim do not consider it to be a hefsek. Right, have we answered Kohanim Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor?
Yes.
Right. So where are we up to? We're up to the Frank. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. Once the Kohanim have said their bracha, you made the point that the Tefilah respond amen. Am I right saying not the Chazan?
Not the Chazan. Why not the Chazan?
Because that's his
What's the question, Johnny?
The question is, should the Chazan say or not say Amen
No.
to Kohanim's bracha? I think that he does not say Amen, but I'm not 100% sure, and I'll look it up. Bli Neder will do that next week, but I think he doesn't, probably because it's considered a hefsek.
Yeah.
By the way,
Baruch Shema is considered mafsik in Mariv, for instance, on Shabbos.
yeah, you shouldn't say
You
you shouldn't say Baruch Hu Baruch Shema.
but you can say-
Ashkenazim should not say Baruch Hu Baruch Shema after Baruch Hu, both in Shachris and Mariv. Okay.
Shabbos too?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The Axel says that the Chazan doesn't say.
Yeah, it doesn't say. Okay. Okay, where were we? So we've said the bracha. No, I wanted the choreography now. I want to go back to the choreography. So the Kohanim are up there now. They've washed their hands, they've taken their shoes off. They've ascended the Duchening during Ritzei and before Modim. Where are they facing? How are they facing to start with?
Yaron Kodesh.
Towards the Aron Kodesh. And they put their talit over their head. And Kohanim, Am Kadoshecha Ka'amor or not, as the case may be. And then they start their bracha. Okay? When do they turn around?
After the bracha.
No, halfway through the bracha.
What word?
At Baruch.
I would say.
Kohanim.
Okay, we've got the bracha. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam. Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. Asher kiddushanu b'kedushato shel Aaron. V'tzivanu levarech et amo Yisrael be'ahava.
Levarech turns, they start to.
Okay, Philip says at levarech. You say at the levarech.
I would imagine, yeah.
You would imagine.
Baruch.
I said that.
Where do you say, Johnny?
I would say the face you're saying the bracha.
So you think they turn around at the beginning of the bracha?
No.
Yes.
Okay, Johnny says at the beginning of the bracha. Leslie's shaking his head. Go on, Leslie, what do you think?
No, definitely in the middle, somewhere.
Somewhere in the middle, Jeff?
No idea, I'm not looking. So.
No idea, because he's not looking.
Before the last word, but
And Warren says before be'ahava. Okay, so let's go through this. Johnny is definitely not right. Okay, now
I don't look. I'll be honest. I've got a grandson.
I was going to
look.
say that's a very, very good thing. You've got to the age of 80, b'li ayin hara, and you've never looked at the Kohanim. So good job for you. Well
you go
done.
blind if you look at them.
Okay, well, Hannah
That's
mentioned
a bit-
that earlier on. So we'll talk about looking. We never did get around to looking at the Kohanim. We'll have to do it next week. All right. So it's not at the beginning of the bracha. Leslie is right that it's somewhere within the bracha. Philip says it's at levarech. Does it say in our scroll where they turn around? My research tells me it is at levarech. I hate to give Philip right, but it looks like you know what it's like. It's like a clock that's stopped twice a day. It's right. Without even trying. That's Philip. Once in a while, he just gets lucky. So it seems to be at levarech, which makes sense because it makes sense. Really, if you would think about it, you would think that they ought to be facing you,
But they don't.
the whole time.
But they don't.
Because
Yeah.
because the whole point about this bracha is from Hashem through the Kohanim to the people. Now, let's just digress for a minute, pull that on one side, and talk about the people. Where do the people have to be during Duchening?
In front of the Kohanim.
In front of the Kohanim. Where does it tell you that they have to be in the front of the Kohanim, Hannah? How do you know they have to be at the front of the Kohanim and not behind the Kohanim? What happens if they're behind the Kohanim?
They don't get the bracha.
They don't get the bracha. How do you know that?
Well, with my explanation, I would say because light travels in a straight line.
Okay, light travels in a straight line. Okay, the sensible answer would have been because okay, that's a quite good answer. I mean,
the Duchening and the Beit HaMikdash was they couldn't stand behind it.
yeah, that's what Jeff just said. You're quite right.
Oh.
And a practical answer would have been because I always look and I see that everybody moves in front of the Kohanim. So that must be what you've got to do. It's a Gemara. Where do you think it is in the Gemara? Sota. You're catching on, Jeff. You're catching on. It's in Gemara Sota. What page? No, 38. We're back to 38. It's in Gemara Sota says very clearly, if you stand behind the Kohanim, you don't get the bracha. Okay, and the reason being is that we want when you get a bracha from somebody, you have to be panim el panim. Now, which means that we have a slight problem because you're what?
You're not looking at their faces. So
We're not looking at their faces. Quite right. So you're meant to be panim al panim, but you're not meant to look at their faces. Or you're not meant to look at them directly. So what do some people do? They turn around and they place their back to the Kohanim.
So that's how I.
Warren says that is 100% wrong.
But then you don't get the blessing. Yeah,
Is Warren 100% right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I was brought up like that, and being here, I learned you don't catch the bracha, you close your eyes and you face the.
Yeah.
Your eyes.
It's disrespectful. It's absolutely wrong. The Shulchan Aruch brings that down very clearly. That why is it done? Because it's done out of ignorance, Jeff. It's done. The ignorance comes from this. You're not allowed to look at the Kohanim, which is not entirely true either, right? Okay, so now you're not allowed to look at the Kohanim, which has become like,
Todas Moshe.
Toras Moshe. It's become a massive thing. You're not allowed to look at the Kohanim. So in order that that's for Chalila, I might just be tempted to look at the Kohanim, I'll turn my back on the Kohanim, which is completely wrong. So you should not turn your back on the Kohanim. You shouldn't even turn sideways, really.
You want to catch the bracha.
You should be facing the Kohanim with your head down, concentrating. Now, we've got 2 minutes, so I will actually touch on looking at the Kohanim. No, I won't. We forgot to talk about this, didn't we? Okay. We forgot to talk about this in detail. We said it's a lattice work. We said it's the shin. We never mentioned Mr. Spock. Okay. The Vulcan sign. Right? Who can do the Vulcan sign? Right? Philip can do the Vulcan sign. I can't do it. Goldie can do it.
I learned.
Anyway, the Vulcan sign is that, which is the Kohanim sign. Now, Leonard Nimoy, who played Mr. Spock, was not a Kohen, right? But he was a Jew from a traditional family, and he used to go to shul with his father. I've actually seen the interview where he talked about this, so this is not just made up. He actually did say this. He used to go to the shul, and of course, he was told you mustn't look at the Kohanim. So, of course, what did he do? Being a little boy, he looked at the Kohanim. Of course, he did. Yeah, had a little peek, and he saw that the Kohanim did this, and he said that he wanted to be a Kohen. He wanted to do it. And he went home, and like my dad, he used to practice doing this thing, right? And when it came to this whole thing of Star Trek, when it first started, and the director or something said, there needs to be a Vulcan greeting, Leonard Nimoy automatically did that. And what was the greeting? Do you know what the words were for the greeting? And it was not Yivarecha. It was I printed this out because I knew I'd forget it. Here we go. Mr. Spock, not Dr. Spock. Dr. Spock was another. Yeah, he was another bloke, another funny bloke. Let me find you what it says. What did he say? What did the Vulcans say? Here we go. The Vulcan ritual of greeting was to do that. And what was the Vulcan greeting when he did this thing with his hand? Live long and prosper. Did you know that?
Yes, I've heard that.
Yeah. Have you heard that?
Live
Live long and
I've heard
prosper.
Okay, so what's that? The,
What is that? Live long and prosper. That is a summary of Birchat Kohanim, is it not?
Yeah.
Right. Live long and prosper is Birchat Kohanim. So, apparently it says here, and this I didn't hear him say, but according to this, Leonard Nimoy got his first acting jobs in Yiddish theatre and used to lane at shul. Didn't know that. Yeah. But anyway, so the Vulcan thing comes from Birchat Kohanim. So all those Trekkies that are going along saying long live long and prosper, they're all pretending to be Kohanim. How cute is that?
That's cute.
By the way, what is the greeting that we say in Hebrew? How do we greet people? Shalom. Or shalom aleichem, or just shalom, right? Which is what? The summary of Birchat Kohanim.
Yeah.
Right?
And what's the answer to Shalom Aleichem?
Aleichem shalom. Okay, so it's about shalom. Shalom being one of God's names, but the greeting that we give to people is shalom, is peace, which is the end of the bracha. So that's the. I think we've done the hands now. Well, we're only a couple of minutes over, so let's just do looking at the Kohanim, shall we?
Just tell them that story, Johnny, about the Kohen who didn't Duchening in our show.
Okay, let me tell you the story about the Kohen.
No,
No,
but you
because
said-
that's about something else which we'll do next week.
That's Cain.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it next week because we've got. It's a question of who is allowed to duchen.
Yeah.
And it needs an intro. That story needs an intro, so we'll do that at the beginning of next week.
Okay, well, it's a nice story.
It is a nice story, and we'll do it next week, Bezrat Hashem. So the looking at the Kohanim. You don't look at the Kohanim. You shouldn't look at the Kohanim. I was taught as a kid because you shouldn't be looking to them to get favor. That's what I was taught as a kid. That I've never seen this brought down in any source, but that's what I was told by my dad. That you shouldn't be seen to be looking for favoritism to the Kohanim. The reasons that I've seen written down are because you shouldn't look at their fingers, and that would be the intro to next week, because their fingers may be deformed. People have a lot of deformities, right? That's why they're covered with the talus, so that you can't look at them. That's why their faces are covered with the talus, so that if you do look at them, you're not distracted by their ugliness, their beauty, or whatever it is.
Or you won't get struck by lightning.
And now the concept that your eyes will go dim if you look at the Kohanim, is that Boba Maisa?
No.
Aha. Okay, we're going to talk about that next week. That's the question for next week. A Kohen with a deformity, is he allowed to duchen? Is he not allowed to? No, you're not allowed to answer me now. We're going to do that next week. Depends on the deformity, maybe. We're going to do that next week. Now, the question that Johnny said before, that if you look at the Kohanim, you'll go blind. Is that a Boba Maisa?
You can't know.
Huh?
There's no way of knowing.
Okay.
No.
Who says it's a Boba Maisa? Who thinks it's a Boba Maisa? Leslie, Frank, Warren, Jeff's on the fence.
I don't.
Jeff thinks it's in Sota.
Wait a second. I just want to say, they say, I don't know if this is true or not, that if you eat treif, it damages your soul.
I'm not talking spiritual blindness here. I'm talking about physical blindness. Does looking at... I am talking about physical. Is that a Boba Maisa?
I don't think I do. No.
Right. The answer to the question is no, it is not a Boba Maisa. It is brought down in the Gemara where? No. It's in the Chagiga. It's in the Chagiga 16a. It's in the it's in the Chagiga 16a. It's brought down that there are three things which will cause your eyes to go dim. Now then,
There it is. Old age.
No, yeah, old age is one of them, yes, I suppose. Whereabouts is it in Chagiga? Wait a minute. I printed it all out. I've got 38 pages here that I printed out, by the way. I printed out 38 pages of stuff on Birchat Kohanim.
Have they shown the island?
I'm an Australian. I talk
You're an Australian, yes.
It's in Chagiga 16a, and I can't remember the other two things, but one of them is. Oh, hang on a minute. Looking at the Kohanim is one of them. I want to see if I can find it because it will tell me the other ones as well.
But how can you know whether a person is blind because you look at the Kohanim?
Well, the Gemara in Chagiga tells you not to do it because it will make your eyes dim. It'll make your eyes dim, and that is in the I can't find it now. But anyway, it's in Chagiga 16a. You want to look it up later on.
What about the waving, Johnny? Is that part of the? Don't they move around like that?
That's not part of the process, but you know that's a bit like shockling, right? You can if you want. It's meant
No,
to.
not you. Don't the Kohanim do that?
No, yeah, but that's part of their concentration.
Johnny, finish it.
So looking at the Kohanim, we shouldn't look at the Kohanim. There is a source for it. You are certainly allowed to have a quick glance. You will not go blind if you have a quick glance. It's not halacha, like, you know, it's better to stand in front of the Kohanim facing them and risk having a quick look because you can't keep your eyes closed, right? Than turning your back. Turning your back is completely wrong. Being behind the Kohanim is wrong. Being in front of the Kohanim is right. Where do you look? You look down at the ground and you concentrate. There we go. We're well over time today.
What do people in the base of Medrash do, Johnny? Do they come into shul?
Yes, they do.
Oh, okay.
Come to shul and they stand over there. They do.
Okay.
They should and they do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Right, I'm stopping the recording now because we're well over time.